let's take a look at how Fabric data pipeline should be developed. So let's go to the Fabric interface, and as we see, I'm currently in the demo folder. The first thing we would like to create, of course, is the notebook. That notebook, by clicking on a new item button and going into the prepare data site, you will see there's a notebook. Right? Click on notebook, and you need to give it a name. Change the name here, and or of course 69. Then here is the familiar notebook interface. Now this is our familiar Jupyter Notebook interface, right? And you can choose to change that from Spark Scala, R, or Python, or Spark SQL. Let's say if I choose SQL, what will happen right now? What's the difference between this Spark, this notebook, and a regular Jupyter Notebook is that now there is a data object explorer here. This explorer will give you the context of data that is available, readily available to you. Of course, you can connect, you can create, you yourself can create JDBC connections or any connections to any external data sources that is the same that you have been doing in all your data science career, right? But Fabric that provides you with some additional things that you can be utilizing. For example, this lake house, I can choose to add lake house. I can create a new lake house, but here, apparently, I want to do existing, and I'm going to choose my bronze and the silver. And there are actually, you can see this. I added the bronze and silver, right? But the only bronze is shown, and but if I go back to here to lake house, you can see there are two items. So bronze and silver both are added. However, there is one that is the default bronze layer. So let's see if we have table here. I can do a select star from bronze customer, uh, limit 10. So waiting for this to complete. Okay, so it takes some time for the underlying Spark pool to start, but now it started. It gets started, and you can see that this is select. Now that customer belongs to the bronze layer, right? What if I want to change to a silver layer? It's a silver lake house. I can click here and select this as default. Do that, switching to the silver display. You can see that right now silver has a default button, the default icon, and the bronze does not have the default icon. And if you look at this silver, there currently is no customer table. So what if I want to run this here? There is no, because you have a select compute, actually the reason is there's no customer table in this silver layer. So in order to access this, I have to specify this is a bronze layer, right? So now, as you can see, once I add this bronze, it works again. This is how you are supposed to reference different tables or warehouses. Bronze, silver, dot, the table name, right? Of course, if it's the default, you don't need to specify, but in general, you should specify the lake house because as you can see, changing this default lake house is very easy. If someone change that, all your code, all your reference to tables without lake house will fail because the default changed. So the recommendation is you should utilizing utilizing the lake house prefix anytime you want. anytime you encounter this. Okay, so let's add. The next thing we want to talk about, let me close this, is the next thing we want to talk about is the purpose, the goal of this notebook. As we talk about Mendelian architecture, you have the Mendelian bronze layer, you have the gold, silver layer, and eventually the gold layer. Notebook as the data transforming service sits between the bronze layer and silver layer, and silver layer and gold layer. So its purpose is to move data, transform data, and move data from bronze layer to silver layer. Now, because you can reference Lakehouse in your SQL or in your Python code, that means you can create the data transformations into the next level. So if I move it here to underline this cell and I add code, and I want to create a table in silver layer dot new customer as select from bronze dot customer. And you can see here I can also add all the transformations for just like where custom ID, custom zip equals to something something, right? I'm not doing this here just for a demo, but that's where you will have a filter. You will have a transformation. For example, if I want to add something like a cast integer customer ID into something. For the purpose of running this query of demoing, I'm not doing this. But as you can see, these are as long as you have the select, you have the SQL, you have the power to make all these change, all these transformations, right? So that's table. There was a typo. So now it's complete. It's still running, but later on we should have this new customer as it's getting processed. No data available, which of course is a create, right? If I refresh here, you see the new customer table, which is the exact copy of this silver bronze layer. So this is how you have a notebook and how you move data between different layers. Now, notebook itself is what we call a compute, right? Compute session. But in the production system, you also need more than just compute because this is just creation, right? But let's say, or if it's an insert, that's fine too. But when should I start insert? I should start it when there's new table, right? Or when there's new data. When should I, after this insert, is there any other new updates, right? After getting the new customer, I should also introduce the fact table, the facts, the purchase that these new customers introduced, right? So there is what we call the orchestration service, which determines when a task should be running and which task runs first, or which task runs later, and what's the dependency. This is done in the data pipeline. So let's say we have a new item, and this time is data pipeline, get data, data pipeline. So I click on data pipeline. And creating the pipeline. Now you see the data pipeline has many you have many different way of building the pipeline. As it shows, you will see that there are different templates that you will be using, but we are going to use the blank pipeline just to show you the possibilities you can have. So as I said, these are the templates, but we are just going to use a blank canvas and click on this. Even though you said you want to do a blank one, it provides you with different options. And let's see what the options do you have. You can copy data. You can do a notebook, or script. Basically, that's SQL script. Store procedure, SQL store procedure. KQL, which is the streaming data processing, machine learning. So these are just Spark jobs. These are transformations, right? You also have all the orchestration tools, such as like invoking the old pipeline. Invoking other pipelines, calling functions, running Azure Batch. You can also manage what to do, how to control the flow if this one fails. If I have a notebook that worked, that was success, then go to the next notebook. But if this notebook fail, it should go to some warning email sending tasks, right? These are easy to understand. But so for us, the most important thing we want to add the notebook that we created before. So this is not a notebook itself. It's an activity. It's a notebook activity inside this pipeline. What you are going to do is to designate the notebook that we just created. I think that was notebook 69, but that's fine because for demonstration purpose, I'm just going to choose an existing notebook, and you can have parameters, passing parameter into notebooks. This is where you have this notebook activity. So if you start running the pipeline, this notebook will get executed. And also you can add schedule. When should this be executed? Every minute, every hour, every daily, and stuff. And if you do not, this schedule is basically a simple schedule. If you want some more complex schedule, you can also utilizing the Airflow. There is a tool called Airflow that you can control in a more complex manner. Now with that notebook, you can also add other activities. For example, if I add another notebook, this time let me choose something else. Instead of this, I'm choosing notebook 1. So now I have these 2 notebooks, and I can designate that this notebook, after execution of this notebook, it should go to, I think I need to, the execution flow should go to notebook. And you can see there's a green tick, there's a red cross. Apparently this tells you this on success and on fail or on completion. By default, it's always on success. So after this notebook is successful, goes to next notebook or any other transformation that you may have. But you can also designate that if I want to run this only after the failure. So once this notebook fails, it goes to the next one. This is possible. And finally, I think the important thing about this pipeline is what the transformation, what activities it provide. You can copy data. This is usually a massive copy that you have a huge set of data as files. This is when you use this copy without transformation. Then there's data flow, which is a graphic user interface that you can perform for data transformation. Notebook we already talked about. There's a script, SQL script, and SQL store, the database store procedure, if condition, web hooks. You can call APIs. So, and the list we just see are all listed here. So this is what you can do with pipeline. With pipeline, you can orchestrate the execution of different tasks. Within each task, I think most relevant for this course is the notebook, where you can execute the SQL or Python code so that you can perform the transformation. And you can use notebook to access both lakehouses, multiple lakehouses, and the warehouse so that you can perform the data transformation between different layers.